my suggestion would be to start with stories, not technology.
Yeah.
So give your students some time to reflect on what they want to write.
Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. My name is Monica Burns, and I am so glad that you're here to join me today. If you want to make the most of education technology, aka EdTech, well, you are in the right place. My goal has always been to help make EdTech easier and give you ideas you can try yourself, share with a colleague, or bookmark for later in the school year. Every Tuesday here on the Easy EdTech Podcast, you'll hear stories from my time in the classroom, the work I do now with schools and districts, and my travels to different EdTech events. Get ready for solo episodes where I share some quick tips and stories, and interviews full of practical ideas and stories from new guests each month. If we mention something you'd like to check out, make sure to click the link. You'll find it in the episode description or the summary area where you're listening to this podcast, or you can find every episode and all of the resources we mention by going to classtechtips.com/podcast, or by going to classtechtips.com and just clicking on the Easy EdTech Podcast button at the top of the page. This episode is sponsored by my quick reference guide using AI chatbots to enhance planning and instruction, published by ASCD and ISTE. It's full of quick tips educators can use, and Amazon almost always has it on sale. Just search for me, Monica Burns, on Amazon to see all of my books and quick reference guides. But please remember that there are 2 authors named Monica Burns on Amazon, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tell the difference between our books. Just head to Amazon, search Monica Burns, and you'll find my quick reference guide using AI chatbots to enhance planning and instruction. Today's episode is titled Digital Storytelling to Boost Student Literacy Skills with Chayanee Brooks. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to chat with her all about digital storytelling. We cover what digital storytelling looks like in a classroom setting, going through the process from start to finish. You're going to hear about some tools and really practical tips that you're going to want to take into consideration as you bring digital storytelling to your group. I first came across Chayanee's work on Edutopia, and I'm really pumped that you get to hear this conversation. It is full of just fantastic gems that you can put into action right away. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to chat with you today about digital storytelling. But before we get into all of that, can you share with listeners a bit about your role in education? What does your day-to-day look like?
Aloha from Hawaii. So my name is Chayanee Brooks, and I teach language arts and journalism at Ka'u High and Pahala Elementary School on the Big Island. Every day I teach traditional reading, writing, literature, and rhetoric. I am also mentoring students' filming projects where I help my students work through their stories, brainstorm ideas, and then review their rough cuts of their videos. And a lot of my time goes also to one-on-one conversation with my students to help them figure out what they really want to say and coaching them through technical aspects of bringing their videos to life. I also connect my students with community members who can give them some feedback and guidance as well.
Nice. Wow. I can't, that's such a fantastic way to think about, right? All the different pieces of putting together, a project for students, the community members they might connect with, of course, the day-to-day support that you offer. And today we're talking about digital storytelling. What first sparked your interest in using digital storytelling in the classroom?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it started off by me noticing my students. They were kind of constantly on their devices, on their phones, scrolling through videos, and they were not really reading much. So at first I felt frustrated, and I thought instead of thinking about this as a burden, why don't I shift my perspective? So instead of focusing on what they were not doing, I started thinking about like how I can channel what they were really interested in towards building some skills that they need. And I start wondering if I could use this natural connection to video and the visual media as a bridge to a deeper understanding and to improve that literacy. And when I saw the first few students project came to life, broadcast on TV, I watched how the audiences respond to that and how that moved people. I knew that this is something special and something that I need to continue on. And some students, in fact, most of them were not really confident in sharing their stories. Now they have platform to share their voice.
Yeah. And that emphasis on audience, like you mentioned, is so crucial, right, in this conversation, giving kids that audience to see their work, to celebrate their work. Now, when we talk about digital storytelling, it's a term that I think a lot of educators have heard before. Maybe they've seen something that falls into that category, but how do you define digital storytelling?
Mm. To me, I think digital storytelling is about using video, images, sound, and words, all of those together to share something that is meaningful. So whether it be their personal experience or something that is happening in the community or someone's perspective. So it's like storytelling, right? But then you are layering all of these elements that work together. And then they need to think about also like how they want to show it through visuals and through sounds and how the audience would hear and what might be some of the music that they can use to set a mood and how all of these things tie together. So it's like a way of communication, and it feels like it's something that the kids these days are using to interact with each other. Yeah.
They're consuming, right, a lot of different types of media, and that, the layers that you talked about, right, really requires a level of critical thinking, of having them make a plan. It doesn't just happen by accident, right? There's so much that goes into this. So what makes storytelling through video or these multimedia elements such a powerful learning experience for your students?
Mm. I think there's something really unique about video because students have to think on multiple levels at once, like I mentioned earlier. And also, they're not only thinking about how to organize their thoughts into sentences, like in writing, but they are also considering what the audience will see and what the audience will hear and how fast or how slow the pacing would be, what emotions different music will bring. So every single decision carries meaning. But then to me, I feel like the most meaningful and powerful thing that the student can experience is that shift from being just passive consumers of information to becoming like active creators. And now they're telling their own stories, right? Instead of just absorbing someone else's content, now they are putting their own stories out into the world. And I really see this like impact significantly. I have students share their struggle and anxiety. At first, they didn't want to share it, but then, we talk through the process to kind of, I tell them that this will help other young people too, your age, who might be like experiencing the same thing. And I also have some teachers from other schools reach out and email me and tell me that the story that my student put together in their video helped their own students to find, some courage and some connection. So I think that is a very profound impact on young people.
Yeah. That intention that you talked about of, right, switching from being just a passive consumer to a much more, active creator. I love what you mentioned about the pacing too, like not just the music, which we know like changes the way we might connect to content, but is something moving fast? Is something moving slow? There's just all of these decisions that students need to make. And I think it's really, powerful, like you said, to put them in the driver's seat, for this. So,
Mhm.
in your blog post for Edutopia, you describe video as a way to meet literacy standards. So how do you see digital storytelling strengthening reading and writing skills?
I think video work is really deeply rooted in writing and literacy, actually, but people might not think of that first. In my experience, my students are constantly writing throughout the process. So they would be writing journal and reflecting on their topic and drafting script, explaining their creative choices, revising their narratives. So every step of the way, they're thinking about the structure and about how to hook an audience and about what details matter and what to cut. So they are doing all of these process, which is involving literacy skill. And also they are analyzing media constantly too, because I would give them like example of professional video work, and they would like analyze and break down what are some of the technique that the producer used. And all of these are critical reading and viewing skill. And they can apply this to like visual text. And then when they are making choices about their tone, considering who their audience is, they are doing this like sophisticated rhetorical work to the standards that I need to teach them, like narrative structure, supporting ideas with evidence, and understanding the audience and revising that draft. All of these are there.
Yeah.
The medium is different, but the thinking, I feel like it is as rigorous or sometimes even more rigorous because they're juggling all these multiple layers of meaning all at once.
Yeah. And just that idea of having great examples, kind of the way we think about mentor texts, right? In an ELA classroom, right? We're analyzing something, we're breaking apart all these pieces so that we can then create, right? So then we can write something, or in this case, right, create a video piece. For teachers who are trying to find, the balance between creative freedom with those academic expectations, like the standards that you mentioned, what would you recommend to them? How can they find this balance of creative freedom with those academic expectations?
So I give students a lot of choices in what stories they want to tell, but the process itself has clear structure and expectations. So they are learning the craft or the grammar of like visual storytelling, just like I teach them how to write a paragraph, or each paragraph needs a topping sentence. I teach them that a video needs a clear focus and supporting visuals that serve a purpose, just like when they write, right? So like every single stage, I'm asking my students to think critically and to justify their decisions. Like, why does this shot work here? And how does this music affect your message? Or what are you trying to make your audience feel here? That is analytical thinking right there. And for them to be able to articulate why behind their choices, that is where academic rigor lives. So they have this freedom in the content, but they are held to the highest standard when they execute their project, and they need to explain like their decisions.
I love that balance because you want them motivated about the content. You want them excited to share a particular story. But at the same time, right, you're holding them to that academic, the rigorous standards that you've established, right? That's for everyone. And so I think that's such a great way to explain, how a teacher could find that balance and honor that, in their classrooms. So what tools or different types of tech do you find most accessible for these types of classroom projects?
Honestly, smartphones are incredible tools.
Uh-huh.
And most students, like pretty much all of them, have smartphones. So I think that's like really the only thing if you want to get started. At our school, we are lucky to have some equipment, cameras and microphones, and
Nice.
student can absolutely create professional quality work here. But if you don't have any access to those, I think phones would work. And for editing tool, we use MacBooks. So most time my students just use iMovie because they can learn it quickly. It's pretty self-explanatory. But if you have like professional tools and software like Adobe Premiere Pro, that's great too. But organization tool like just kind of template or Google Slide for them to plan out before filming it is a simple step towards, production later on if they have more sophisticated and accessible tools that they can use.
I think that's such a great reminder for someone listening that, they don't need to be a master, right, of Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or, really heavy equipment. They can start with a smartphone. They can start with iMovie. And then perhaps if kids are independently ready to explore something on their own or they're starting to learn something and take students through it, there's just a nice range you can work within and really be successful at the same time. So, as we think about different projects or different things that your students have done, can you walk us through what a digital storytelling project might look like from start to finish?
Sure. So the process typically takes about a couple of months. My student will start like working first on like brainstorming some ideas, and we will begin by like thinking deeply about what story they want to share, what kind of thing that matter to them the most. And I would give my students prompts that help them explore. For example, they can think about what are some of the struggles or what are some of the hopes and messages that they want to share. And this sometimes it can take several days to several weeks because finding the right story that they want to really move forward with sometimes takes time, and sometimes they change their mind back and forth. But like once they have landed on the topic of their like choice, they can work on crafting what they want to say. And some might want to write full script, some might want to plan bullet point. And then now they have to think about visual planning, which is crucial as well, because before they pick up a camera, they need to start planning like shot lists, meaning what will be showing on the screen and what will be something that they want to say. So they need to create detailed plans that include both visual and audio elements. And then the filming stage can take several weeks because sometimes students have to go to different locations to film B-roll, and sometimes they need to schedule interviews if it's like a documentary style piece, if it's not like just reflection piece. So they need to capture all of these footages. And then after they have rough cut, we can look through that together, and then they might want to edit something and add, other elements such as sound and adjust the pacing and the speed. And then they will get feedback from peers and from me and from maybe community members or mentors. And then the final products of the video typically the length of the final product would be like 90 seconds to a couple of minutes. But it takes a lot of work, like several months of work to do this. But it's rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate you breaking down just those steps in the process, because I think for someone who's, trying to wrap their head around what this might look like in their environment, they need to have a sense of, right, the scope, right, or the commitment, if you will, for making this happen. So for someone who's listening today who may be new to this topic, but is motivated to try it out with their students, what is one small thing they can do to get started in their classroom?
I think my suggestion would be to start with stories, not technology. Yeah. So like give your students some time to reflect on what they want to write. So you can ask them like, what are some of the things that you want people to know about you or your life? Or like I mentioned earlier, what might be some of the challenges that you have overcome? I think creating that time and space where students can explore internally and identify stories that matter to them is the most important thing. And then from there, they can start thinking about what they want to put in the video and what would we see and what moment that they want to show. But then there's this very important thing that I want to tell everyone, that most students might not feel like they want to share their story at first. So encouragement is everything.
Yeah.
I've learned this. I told my student that it's not like I'm an expert on everything. It's not like, I learned this alongside you and then you have story worth sharing. So just kind of let's figure this out together in the process.
I love that emphasis on just having a supportive environment, letting kids know their stories are valued, and just that you're right there alongside them, right through this whole process. So thank you so much for taking time to break down what this might look like in someone's classroom. For someone who's listening in today and wants to learn more about your work, I'll link out to that Edutopia article, of course, but where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about your work?
Yes. So I have some articles on Edutopia, apart from the one that you link here. And also I am writing another piece that would come out soon about virtual exchange that I work with my students in Hawaii and students from other states. So this project has students from different communities and different states interviewing their elders and learning about their local community and environment, and create video that showcase what makes their place special. And I presented this work at the Schools of the Future conference this past October on Oahu, and the response has been amazing. I think I just love how students gain confidence and grow from the experience. I have students last year who did her work on how she used poetry to cope with her difficult emotions. And I have another student the year before who both of them won Mental Health America Hawaii Award. And this year I have more students coming to me and, telling me that they want to do their own stories too. So I think this is a very worthwhile and meaningful work. And if you want to connect, you have the link right in the podcast. And then you can also reach out to my social media as well. And I would love to learn alongside you.
Wonderful. And I'll link that out for anyone who's listening today. But thank you so much for your time, for taking listeners through this. Such actionable information. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was such a fun conversation. So let's make this EdTech easy with some key points from the episode. Digital storytelling taps into students' natural connection to video and helps build literacy skills. Video creation pushes students to think critically about visuals, sound, pacing, and audience. Storytelling through multimedia shifts students from passive consumers to active creators. Digital storytelling deeply reinforces writing, structure, analysis, and rhetorical skills. Remember, you can find the show notes and the full list of resources from this episode, including all of the ways to connect with Chayanee Brooks, by heading to easyedtechpodcast.com. This episode is sponsored by my quick reference guide using AI chatbots to enhance planning and instruction, published by ASCD and ISTE. It's full of quick tips educators can use, and Amazon almost always has it on sale. Just search for me, Monica Burns, on Amazon to see all of my books and quick reference guides. But please remember that there are 2 authors named Monica Burns on Amazon, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tell the difference between our books. Just head to Amazon, search Monica Burns, and you'll find my quick reference guide using AI chatbots to enhance planning and instruction. Thank you for listening to this new episode of the Easy EdTech podcast. I love creating new episodes for you each week, but I could use a bit of help spreading the word about the podcast. Can you leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app? Spotify will let you tap on the stars, and Apple Podcasts will let you tap on the stars and leave a 1 or 2 sentence review. Thank you so much for taking this extra step. It helps other educators find episodes like this one when they're searching for EdTech tips.